As young people, we need to see this vision, believe in it, dream big, and actually work towards achieving this reality. Are we ready to put in the work that it needs to create this transformation?
Over the last 3 months, almost 500,000 young people from over 170 countries and all regions participated in global, national, and grassroots-level dialogues, both face-to-face and online, to develop a common vision towards transforming education. Called the Youth Declaration. It's based on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and emphasizes that education is a fundamental human right, a global public good. People everywhere are driving change, pioneering innovation, and mobilizing peers and decision makers to act.
The advisory committee had an incredibly strong voice from the youth student movement, and we have seen more young voices come into those rooms. And so our commitment to you is to get many more into the rooms as we can.
Transformer l'éducation, c'est un pacte nécessaire entre générations pour reconstituer des sociétés durables.
School should be a safe space for everyone.
We have to achieve gender equality.
We cannot talk about education in the 21st century without climate education.
I want to see all the children with and without disabilities learning together, playing together, and enjoying together.
And we cannot talk about SDG4 without inclusion. We cannot really achieve SDG4 if we leave refugee and displaced youth behind.
We need to teach kids how to deal with themselves so they can know how to deal with the world.
We need to improve education systems to align with tomorrow's labor market needs.
Transformative education looks like equal resources for all schools.
We need everybody in our communities, both local and international, to put in work and ensure that there is enough political momentum and commitment to transform education.
Transform the education, transform the globe.
Young people everywhere are paving the way towards a new education system where all learners are empowered to reach their fullest potential.
It's not only about protecting the right to education everywhere and for everyone. It's also about transforming learning.
I urge everyone here today to support the Youth Declaration process.
Amazing. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I see more people are coming in and the Youth Side event of today. That's very exciting. And I hope this video already has put a lot of talking points and discussion points that we may take in this panel discussion. So welcome back, and good day from Florence, Italy. This is Omid. I am an SDG4Youth Network member. At the same time, I was a social entrepreneur and research on how to create ecosystems for better and thriving rural cities across the European Union. I'm accompanied by other SDG youth members, and therefore, please, if you have any questions or remarks or need support, write in the chat. Because we have members around that are going to help you in whatever issue you are facing. And please, since we want to create a small community in this 1-hour event, describe and tell us from where you're joining from. And I understand we have so many time zones in so many countries. And also feel free to add how are you related to SDG4, and especially if you're a student or young leader, researcher, policymaker, or educator and teacher, or whatever you wish to describe, however you want to describe yourself. So we know who we have around and how how many different sides may want to be interested in these topics. Before starting, please, as every community, we need to put some ground rules, and this meeting will be recorded, so you are aware, either because of the camera can be off, or if you're not comfortable with this, you can leave the meeting. However, if you are not a speaker, I still encourage you to not switch on the camera and also the microphone off. Of course, there will be a session almost at the end where there is an open space discussion for everyone to interact. So definitely that's a moment where these rules can be less stringent, and any aggressive and disrespectful behavior will be not tolerated. And if you're under 18, please do not turn on the camera and just type your first name in the Zoom profile. And if you have any questions, as I said before, feel free to write in the chat, and our team members will help out with this for sure. So today's agenda will focus on giving priority to many. First of all, the interaction, and second of all, we will have a discussion space where the intersectionality of the SDGs will come up, starting from the ground that we have described through the video, which is SDG4. And we will start with an interactive activity in a few seconds and end with an open space discussion through the end. Clearly, all this conversation is strictly attached to the SDG 9, industry, innovation, infrastructure, 11, sustainable cities and communities, and 17, partnership for the goal, laying the ground from the SDG 4, which is quality education. But who are we, and why we're creating this event? So the SDG4Youth Network is a major global education cooperation mechanism, constituency for increased communication, shared reflection, and revived relationships. And we serve as a catalyst platform for joint action and activity planning among youth and students, as well as sharing practices and experiences. That's what we are proposing today, for example. And the vision of the network is to include young voices in important global dialogues, like the ones through the ECOSOC forum on quality education, especially, and showing how there is a huge intersectionality factor with the SDG for with all the 17 SDGs. And the network is one of the task constituencies with leading the follow-up to the UN Transforming Education Summit that happened in New York. But before that, there was a pre-summit, and that's one of the first photos that we took, and that led to the UN Transforming Summit in New York, where the Youth Declaration, through a very long process, has been presented to the UN Secretary General, as we will see in a few seconds as well. It's about mobilizing actions towards education reform, and we believe in transforming education in a very holistic approach. And today we are going to have 3 different speakers that are going to touch education from 3 different points and interrelating them to the SDG 9, 11, and 17. So we cannot imagine an education without connecting it to a sustainable development in general. I see now more people are writing in the chat, so keep that flowing, because that's very, very important to create a sense of community. And what is the Youth Declaration that you have seen in the video? So education is, first of all, a multi-stakeholder problem with a myriad of elements. We take care from human rights to climate change, from technology access to teachers' trainings, school infrastructure, energy, and growing inequality. And after an inclusive and representative process to gather collective views, recommendations, and commitments on transforming education, that's how, with over 450,000 young people, over 170 countries, through consultation, we reach a 25 demands Youth Declaration, and at the end, also 5 commitments by young people, because young people are the core of this transformation. As we are going to see today, there are young people talking about very realistic and practical solutions and concepts on transforming education. And we have a reason to be here. And one of the reasons we are here, because we share one purpose, which is either we are interested in transforming education, whether you are inside the education field. And the 5 commitments really encompass 3 main needs or asks, let's say, bases. First of all, young people collective sense of urgency to address the global education crisis is the major factor that drove this youth declaration, especially after COVID-19. And young people call for a meaningful engagement and not becoming only beneficiaries. And that's one of the most important point of the whole process. And also, young people recognize the intersectionality and the complexity as well of this inclusive approach and this youth declaration. Therefore, very briefly, this is the youth. Very briefly, you can see these are the 5 commitments by these are the 5 commitments. Very briefly, you can go through them. I don't want to stay too much on the youth declaration itself because we have so many amazing speakers in the next section. But we are talking about advocating, promotion of international intercultural dialogues. We are talking about inclusion in the decision-making processes and solidarity. So now very, very briefly, how the SDG4 is connected to the SDG 9 and 11 and 17 is mostly related to how can we create safe and sustainable infrastructures, either that are, for example, connected to climate change or resilience to disasters, but also in response to wars, for example. We're going to hear one of this aspects from our speaker, but also how does this affect and how is it related to the digitalization and access to the internet, and a very crucial element, which is common to many SDGs, is partnerships. How do we promote partnerships through education and through the different SDGs, through different strategies, but especially young people are considered as partners rather than beneficiaries. And I want to start with a small Mentimeter and interactive activity. Please scan this QR code. Take your time to enter, edit the link that is going to be shared in the chat, or the code that is also being shared in the chat. And let's think about 2 main questions. Have you heard of the Youth Declaration on Transform Education? So either yes or no, or I have seen it but not read it. And what should be the top priority for transforming education? So give him a few seconds more on scanning the QR code while I'm preparing the presentation of Menti. If you are not able for any reason to not enter through the Menti, please write it in the chat or to one of our team members. So the answers keep coming, and now we have a yes or no, almost even, and it's fine if you don't know. That's why we are here as well, and it's fine if you know about it, because then we are gonna move forward with deeper topics with the panelists. A few more seconds for this multiple choice Menti. I'm very glad that we have already 50 people in the event. Amazing. Well, we have, I like it because we have a very splitted knowledge on regarding the Youth Declaration, and that's very interesting, and that's exciting as well, because they're gonna really tell more things on this. Allow me to go to the next slide, where you should feel free to add one word that is related to what should be a top priority for transforming education. It can be related to your daily experience, if you're a student or a person that is pretty much localized, or whether you're working on it, on transforming education, how you're doing it in one word. Seeing inclusion in the center, technology, informal education, and we're going to talk about that. Amazing, amazing. So we have a definitely intersectionality and other general and very technical terms, but I see that the inclusion still stick in the middle, and definitely it's the basis of the whole youth declaration itself. And technology nowadays, for sure, it's crucial. Accessibility is definitely related to the technology itself as well. And keep in mind these words, write it down somewhere in a paper or on your phone, because you may come up with a question related to this. You can also start with saying this word. So I'm gonna come back to the slides, and thank you again for your active participation. We can keep flowing the answers also in the chat. And very excited to go towards the speakers, because that's the main part of the event. And I'm very delighted to have here on a visual stage Yasmin Abdelghani and Owe. So Nurul has not Owe. And special thanks also to all the co-workers or organizers, Ilan, Sofia, and Elian. And Karina also have shared a very special video for us. Unfortunately, there was unexpected events during this morning. So she will join online, but in a asynchronous way. So I'm inviting now the speakers to, of course, open up the camera and please introduce yourself, but at the same time, what is something that excites you in the everyday commitment on transforming education? Tell us a bit about yourself as well, so we can get started with this panel. I give the floor to Yasmin, please.
Hi, Omid and everyone. I'm Yasmin Abdelghani from Egypt, a member of SDG4 Network. So for me, the thing that excites me about everyday commitment on education is imagining the change a transformative education could actually bring to young people's life by helping bringing people and the communities closer to the necessary skills to build sustainable societies. But actually, this is not the most exciting thing, because we are not just imagining, we are actually working on achieving that together with other outstanding young leaders, young education advocates from around the globe. So this is the most exciting part.
Amazing, amazing. I really love this this relationship with your story as well. So Nurul, if you also in 2 minutes want to answer this question, I would appreciate what is something that excites you in the everyday commitment to transform education, and also introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think the most exciting part, especially living in a developing country, when I see thousands of girls going to schools, people who doesn't have the luxury to be in the schools, especially after the COVID outbreaks in the developing countries, we have seen a huge number of people dropping out from the schools, especially in the primary schools. So it excites me is that in every days I was going to the schools last week, and I saw the number of girls are increasing compared to the number of boys. So this is something that makes me hopeful for the futures, and this is something that should excite every one of us, because our future lies on educations, and especially with the girls' education. So this is actually the right times to talk about quality education for all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your amazing answer. It's definitely a very, very top priority, and that has been seen also in the Mentimeter. Now, let's get started in a deeper manner with Yasmin in the panel discussion. And Yasmin, is gonna talk about many different things. I'm not gonna spoil them, but mostly on non-formal education with her research background. And the question to you, Yasmin, it's what is the role of non-formal education in building up on the summit and the youth declaration process, and how does it relate to the SDG 9, 11, and 17? Floor to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed, for your question. So normally when we speak about non-formal education, people stop to ask, what's non-formal education? How is it different from my education at school? How can I know that I have been engaged in a non-formal education program? So let's start first by having a quick introduction on the definition of non-formal education. People actually are constantly learning everywhere and all the time. Not a single day goes by that doesn't lead to additional skills, additional knowledge, or competences for all individuals. This knowledge and these skills can come from formal education, informal or non-formal education. So what's the difference between the three? Let's start with formal education. Formal education is the organized, structured, and intentional learning running from primary school through the university. It's your education at primary school, at secondary school, and at university that culminates in the achievement of a recognized certificate or a recognized diploma or degree recognized by educational institutions in your country. So this is formal education. This is the kind of information that most people are familiar with. But we have two avenues for learning that enable learners to engage with education, re-engage with education throughout their lives. So on the other side, we have informal education. Informal education or informal learning is never organized. It's not organized or structured or intentional. It doesn't have any set of objectives in terms of learning outcomes. We can call it experience or learning experience. It is the experience we gain from our daily lives, the situations in our daily lives. So it's the knowledge and the skills from our daily experience that come from our families, from our neighbors, from our friends, or at work, or from the media, or from the marketplace. It is this knowledge and skills that's never organized or never intentional. And midway between the two, midway between formal education and informal learning, we have non-formal education. Non-formal education is any organized educational activity that is happening outside the established formal system. This type of structured and organized learning, which is intentional, it's also intentional as formal education, but it doesn't lead to formal qualifications like formal education. It doesn't lead to any formal qualifications recognized by the relevant national education authorities. So this is the difference between the three. An example on non-formal education could be your work in youth organizations or non-governmental organizations by attending workshops on specific topics like climate education, like gender equality, or having literacy classes for people, for adults, or even having classes for children who dropped out of school. It doesn't lead to recognized qualification, but it is intentional learning and organized learning. So in brief, formal education is linked with schools and universities and the training institutions, while non-formal education is linked with community groups and organization, and informal covers what's left: interactions with friends, interactions with family, interactions with work colleagues. So this is the definition. Let's move to the role of non-formal education in achieving sustainable development goals. Actually, non-formal education is playing a major role in achieving sustainable development goals. As we all know, education is thought to be the most appropriate tool to raise awareness about the challenges posed by global issues, such as climate change, since it brings people together and brings communities closer to the necessary skills to build sustainable societies. Education for Sustainable Development is actually working on providing us with the skills, with tools and the attitudes needs to help achieving sustainable development development. But education for sustainable development is not common in our formal education systems. So we need to rely on non-formal education to help provide learners with the skills and attitudes that help them to be active agents of a change in their communities and achieve sustainable development. So this is the role non-formal education is playing in help achieving sustainable development goals. You might be familiar with any course or any workshop you have attended about climate change that help providing you with skills related to climate change or climate justice, or help providing you with skills related to gender equality, how to promote gender equality, or digital skills, or how to promote peace and security in your communities. So this is the role non-formal education is playing in achieving sustainable development goals. And given this is important role of non-formal education, the Transforming Education Summit has called to invest in non-formal education, not just as the world leaders or the education stakeholders, but also young people. Nearly 500,000 of young people from around the globe called upon decision makers and world leaders to recognize and invest in non-formal education, with special focus on youth-led non-formal education programs. Actually, we have been trying to raise awareness of, Youth Declaration and Transforming Education Summit and informing people about Youth Declaration for a few months now. But I think it's the time that we start fostering actual actions in turning this Youth Declaration into reality and turning the commitments of the Transforming Education Summit into reality. And UNESCO is working on that by designing a global youth initiative. And we also, young people from around the globe, have started leading momentums to help turning the commitments of this declaration into reality. And one of these actions is the Alliance for Non-Formal Education. The Alliance for Non-Formal Education, which I lead together with my colleague Kinga from the World Squads. We are working on contributing directly to SDG4 and SDG17, linking them together for the sake of all the other sustainable development goals. So what is actually is Alliance for Non-Formal Education? The Alliance for Non-Formal Education is an initiative, global initiative launched by me and my colleague Kinga and supported by the United Nations Foundation. It aims to help achieving formal recognition, systemic support, and funding, to all of which is the first step in putting non-formal education in the spotlight and making it a mainstream term in the public discourse. So our aim is to mobilize actors from around the globe to take action together by effectively connecting different stakeholders in an alliance of partners. The first phase of our initiative, which we are working on right now, is focusing on three main pillars. The first pillar is federating and connecting youth-led non-formal education programs, working on different non-formal education programs related to all the sustainable development goals. We are working on connecting them and federating their efforts and providing them with a space where they can connect and help and support each other. We also are working on showcasing their best practices to public, through in public events and in publications. And we are also working on building the capacity or organizing capacity building programs for young people working on non-formal education programs or leading non-formal education programs. So leading up to the Sustainable Development Goals Summit in September, we will illustrate the positive impact selected non-formal education programs have on the world, their important contribution to quality education and sustainable development. We wanted to show the real power of youth and youth-led non-formal education programs in order to be able to move to our second phase, which is mobilizing other actors and other stakeholders from international organizations, governments, to support and promote non-formal education programs by joining our alliance. So we are working on that together with, we have a core group consisting of young people from around the globe. but we also have opportunities for other young people who might be interested in joining us. So here are two opportunities for you if you wish to join the Alliance for Non-Formal Education. The first one, if you are working on leading a non-formal education program or a part of non-formal education program. And the second one is if you are working on climate and climate education and wish to be a delegate for your country in the next Transforming Education Summit. It will take place virtually in August. So I'll share the links to these two opportunities in the chat together with my contact details. So if you have any questions or any clarifications, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Yasmin, for this amazing contribution. Really, the key word here is alliance. And you really showcase how young people can lead such amazing ecosystems and lead forward the partnership SDG17 with Karina, which, as I said before, it's unable to join live the event. She's from Ukraine, founder and Partnerships for Advancing Innovative Sustainability, and she focuses on research, smart cities, infrastructure, and innovation. And I have a video prepared this morning for you to share. Allow me a few seconds. Thank you. Go.
Dear colleagues, my name is Karina Radchenko. I come from Ukraine, and it's a great honor today to address this site event organized by the UNESCO SDGs for Youth in terms of United Nations Economic and Social Council Summit. I would like to impress my sincere thankfulness for all the efforts put within this youth declaration. It was based on enormously meaningful consultations with young people worldwide. So it's clearly the voice of youth, the voice of young people. I would like to emphasize on the importance of safe education, inclusive one, and on the importance of infrastructure for safe education. In Ukraine, since the 24th of February, hundreds, thousands of schools have been just targeted. They do not exist anymore. At the same time, children need a place to study. Children need a place to learn peacefully, as well as students in the university, researchers, scientists. So it's enormously important to provide peace. And this declaration focuses on holistic peace approach for education, because without peace, we can hardly reach all other targets. Peace is essential on all the levels to be achieved. At the same time, the Transforming Education Declaration also focuses on the rights of refugees and migrants and overall inclusive approach to provide everyone the right to study, regardless of where the person comes from and through which challenges he or she is going. But at the same time, we need to revive peace in the communities affected by war worldwide. I would just name several examples. Ukraine, Afghanistan, Syria, Ethiopia, many other places on our planet affected by war. And there, instead of going to schools, studying peacefully, children and youth are forced to hide somewhere, hide from shelling, as in Ukraine for more than 1 year, 1.5 years almost as of now. People and children are just hiding in the bomb shelters. In some places there is no internet connection, and there is constant unsafety, as every moment the bombs can fall, claiming lives. At the same time, this youth declaration gives big hope for humanity, for us to revive the fundamental dignity and values such as proclaimed in the United Nations Declaration for Human Rights, such as, for instance, the right to education. And when we educate the country, the economics wonder are likely to come. There are many examples worldwide, not the least in terms of Finnish rapid growth and recovery after the Second World War, German case, Japan, Singapore, other countries. What was done there? Enormous investments in the post-war time were allocated for schools, educations and universities. There is limitless of resources, but these resources were put in the right place, in the long-term goal. So when we speak about post-war recovery, we need your help, not only in Ukraine, but in other countries affected by war, to recover schools, because children and youth need a place to study now, not after even this war finishes, but it should finish as soon as possible. Thank you very much, and I hope for further cooperation, partnership, and unleashing the potential of this SDG 16, because as once Maynard Keynes has written, SDG 16 provides enormous economic value. Countries can prosper only when there is peace as our common educational humanitarian goal. Praying for peace, humanity, economic development. Thank you very much.
Amazing. We send special thanks to Karina, managed to do this video, and as she mentioned at the end, even though it's not the core of the today's SDGs, but if we do not have peace, then we cannot really talk about it, the advancement of all the SDGs. And here we have touched a very crucial thing. We have moved from the non-formal education field and partnership field as well to the safety and infrastructure field that encompasses also the digitalization, energy, security, and it includes actually partnerships as it was mentioned. So that's very, very important aspect of education is also peace. And again, now we have our last panelist, which is joining from Bangladesh. If you have questions for Karina, feel free to send an email to the email that you can find in the schedule of today's side event, and we're making sure that you receive an answer to that. And now I invite on turning on the camera Nurul Owe, that is coming from joining from Bangladesh, president of Key as Impact and War Merit Bangladesh. A lot of topics. Owe is going to speak about future-proof skills development, partnerships, and also NGOs, which is his focus. Therefore, I asked the first question to Owe. How can we future-proof skills in the context of safe education facilities and non-formal youth-led organizations? But feel free to move in your own way to connect them. And thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Omid. Thank you. I would like to welcome our all young friends, young advocates, and my colleagues from UNESCO SDG4 Youth Network, and all the participants who are participating to other events of ECOSOC Youth Forum 2030. Greetings from Dhaka, Bangladesh. It is actually a pleasure to be sharing this auspicious days with you all at the SDG4 Youth Network side events, which is on build up and scale up for safe education facilities, non-formal youth-led organization, and future-proof skills. Before I proceed, allow me to congratulate my own network and the ECOSOC Youth Forum, our platform in pioneering new ways of building young global citizens through youth empowerment education to build peaceful and sustainable society. I commend the teams SDG4 Youth and ECOSOC Youth Forum, especially for their focus on empowering young global citizens to be transformative champions of education and change. it is actually an auspicious years when we will be commemorating the 78 years of the establishment of United Nations, and I'm very grateful that to deliver this presentations or a speech as a representative of UNESCO SDG4 Youth Network representing my country, Bangladesh, and it is absolutely a pleasure. My dear advocates, our beautiful world is a crossroads, a juncture where we must pause, reflect, and then collectively act. Humanity is facing a new sets of challenges ranging from the pandemic, climate change, and unprecedented migrations to mental health problems and violent conflicts. Global peacefulness has declined considerably. It is estimated that more than 40% of the people are under the age of 25. However, the civic and political participation is merely average. In my country, Bangladesh itself, the median age is 25 years. As to compound the problems, we need our education systems to be more adapting and to be very quickly enough to counter and even prevent these challenging issues. This is why we need powerful forces dedicated to the educations that promotes empathy, compassion, and kindness. My friends, this is why we need powerful forces to ensure youth's participation in building a sustainable world. And I believe that the young peoples are the persons who can be the champion of ensuring quality education for all. While working as a young advocate for education, I have met thousands of student teachers all around in Bangladesh and shared on how we can impose the SDGs in their lesson plans and in their curriculum. Believe me that I was so inspired by their passion and their devotion towards changing the world, and were willing to do it as for their students and for their communities. To better understand SDGs, we need to communicate in such way that students can understand our language. And non-profit organization, NGOs, has a big role to play. And I believe we must make our youth realize to understand the importance of SDGs and the role of young people as its necessity. The global pandemic has taught us more than ever that adapting to uncertainty and learning innovatively is a must for restructuring our education systems to ensure that they facilitates the new ways of learning through digital innovations. Education must therefore facilitate and challenge the young to search deep within themselves and build the inner strength that enables them to not just sympathize or relate with the suffering of others, but to act, to lessen that sufferings on the fundamental basis that, like themselves, they too are sentient, being deserving of dignity, respect, and happiness. We need to educate young peoples on the importance of critical inquiry and experimentations to enable them to defy and transcend boundaries such as class and race. We need them to be educated and creative to question and transfer entrenched structural injustices and inequalities. This is to be an education that builds their resilience and determination to fight global injustices, even when their health or lives are at stakes. This brings to my final points, reiterations of things that I have said or hinted already. We are in dire need of many more Nelson Mandela's, Martin Luther King's, and indeed many more like leaders like our Secretary Generals and leaders like you and me, who are taking education seriously and advocating for it. We need young people who are disturbed and concerned about injustices and inequalities anywhere in the world, and who are most importantly ready to roll their sleeves, form into a collective movement to build nations that will be free of poverty, hunger, and self-dependent, and build a world of equal, peaceful, sustainable, where every being is treated equally with dignity and respect, and where suffering is non-existent. In conclusion, we need to bring back youth into the presence. Young people are not the leaders of tomorrow, not even today. They're the leader of now. We need to give youth their deserved agency, trust in them, and educate them to be like or better, or to create support ecosystems to enable them to transform their societies. This is therefore a gathering like this, a gathering of commemorating 78 years anniversary of establishment of United Nations, where we collectively reaffirms pledge through a gathering of concern, kind compassion, youth who are determined to bring a better tomorrow for humanity. As I challenge the youth, I also challenge the sunset generation, the leaders from myself to all of us here, to create spaces for authentic engagement and involvement of youth. And if required, step aside and let them spread it to bring societal transformation. I'll follow these movements and of making educations at the heart of all SDGs and youth declarations that we have created on the Transforming Education Summit last year's. And I promise to support my network to see the seeds germinate and grow into a gigantic trees so that we can support the generation. I pledge my full supports to the youths of member SDG network, calling governments, private partners to support fully fund and establish multi-stakeholders and private partnerships to establish dedicated funding, transform education and close the gaps in quality education between and within region, public and private institution, urban or rural areas, and many more. Yeah, I think I went too far, but in short, I would say that we need to be the change that we wish to see in the world. Is there any questions I have for you? For me, sorry.
Fantastic. I think if they have questions, we're gonna do that in like a few seconds. But I really appreciate it. Fantastic. It was not a long speech, but it was the core was very received. Let's say the message was very received. Two keywords I really loved was trust and authenticity, which are very important values for creating just talking, even like starting to talk with adults or other generations, to sit on the table. That's really the first step for everything. And I loved how you connected to the Youth Declaration article number 23, which relates to the partnerships and the emphasis on this. Therefore, I invite more questions. I invite questions either in the chat, either by raising the hand to the recently the one that spoke already right now, Owe, or to Yasmin, or general questions that we will see who would like to answer. But if you do not have answers, but I hope you have, feel free to do not fear. You can raise the hand through the button as well. We have 5 minutes dedicated to this, and otherwise you can either write in the chat or raise the hand to say as few answers of this. What is the awareness level on this declaration in your country? Or 3 key findings of today that you learned today, or will you use this declaration at work? We have 2 questions in the chat, but I see now Nicholas that has raised the hand. If you go ahead, please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And just my name is Nicolas, just living in France, and we have thanks you for a lot of your team. You're organizing this meeting of SPART, the quality education. First, my objective in France have possibility to open again UNICEF to organize it of continuity of giga of access of internet in the world of different parts. And we have deposed of a deputy to continue to developing in the French tech community to integrate of the possibility to researchers in partnership all over the world. And my first questions of your board indirectly, have you got of definitive the possibility to opening and collaborating all of the different region of United Nations? And for me, it's very difficult to listen of my government to possible to fusions of creating and team into developing continuity in giga program for UNICEF in France. It's very important to hear me and to help me to continue in these actions and quality education. But my second question, this support to access in internet or not internet in young, it's very simple or not simple, and have you got the possibility to indicate it on chair, on board, to guideline to developing and collaborating of these innovations of to access internet and to research on the financial project? It's there for me. It's very difficult, and lots it in these two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolas. I would love to answer your questions. I didn't. If you can write again in the chat the first question, but the second question is mostly related to access to internet. I don't know if Yasmin or Ove wants to take on this question right now. Otherwise.
Omid, I'm sorry, but I couldn't hear the question properly.
Yeah, there was a small problem on the audio, but tell me if I'm wrong. The last questions, the second question is mostly related on the access to internet and how we ensure that this internet access is being deployed in different ecosystems, in different developed countries. And you mentioned the importance of different projects of GIGA of UNICEF in France. But I want to call on whether Owe or Yasmin on taking on this question.
Yes.
You do have a background on this.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Actually, it is an interesting and very important question, talking about connecting everyone, and especially the learners in developing countries with the internet and with technology. Actually, we are working on this right now, and the United Nations actually is working on this right now by developing a global digital compact that has 7 action areas. And the first action area is connecting all learners in the schools with the internet, especially the learners in the developing countries. So this is an issue that has been, that had been exacerbated after COVID-19, because COVID-19 has highlighted our dependence on technology and internet, and has also eliminated the digital divide, especially for the people in the developing country. The actions that are being taken right now, there are actions being taken by the United Nations, like the Global Digital Compact, which we are contributing to as young people. We are having our inputs into the Global Digital Compact. So if you have any recommendations or any inputs that represent you or the young people in your country, feel free to reach out to us to include your voices and include your recommendations in the youth inputs that will be delivered to Global Digital Compact. And if you have any other issues with access to technology, especially to young girls in rural areas, feel free also to reach out to us. We are also working on that. So yeah, it's an important issue that we are working on, and I look forward to receiving your inputs or recommendations from you or the young people in your community.
Thank you, Yasmin. It was very accurate answer. I really appreciate it. Very quickly, one last question that we took from the chat. I know we have time constraints and we want to respect the time for everyone. One question for Nurul, so we have completed both questions for both speakers. It is related to Bangladesh. And have you applied critical inquiry that teaches for the SDGs in your educational system? Any curricular modifications or intervention at the school level in Bangladesh? The floor is yours. 1 minute.
Thank you. Even though I'm not a part of the governments, but I will answer because I work closely with the Ministry of Education of Bangladesh here. Yes, we did. We are The government of Bangladesh has taken few initiatives. We have changed our curriculums, where we have adopted a new form of curriculum that teaches us on how we can focus on critical inquiry. Not only on critical inquiries, we are focusing on how to develop ourselves, especially on soft skills, skills that are needed to tackle the challenges of 21st centuries. And we have digitalized our classrooms. We have classrooms that are highly equipped with the digital facilities. Our government is trying to bring innovations in classrooms. We have curriculums that are equipped with aligning with the sustainable development goals. We're also focusing on girls' educations, especially on mass education, including primary and secondary educations. There was a times in Bangladesh where the number of students assigned was dropping, but due to the government initiatives, especially by providing scholarship to girls, scholarship to students from primary to master's levels as educations, they have made it free. And then people who are from Bangladesh, I think I've seen 2 or 3 people who were actually from Bangladesh. They were like asking, you might know that our government provides books for free to every students in the primary and secondary educations. It's completely free of charge. We don't take monies and we have started, especially in the government schools, with free lunch and as well as different initiatives. So yeah, our government is taking initiative, but we still have a long way to go. Despite having issues, especially after the COVID, we have high inflations in the countries, but we are still trying to cope up. And I'm pretty sure in the futures, you will see a lot of changes. We have seen the curriculums being developed by different organizations, including UNESCO. UNESCO is playing a huge role in developing our curriculums and with the experts. And even though I'm not the assigned person to talk about all these things, but to my knowledge, these are the things that they are doing, and I'm pretty sure we'll do better in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Owe. It was wonderful, and really appreciate the whole holistic approach. I appreciate a few more minutes. It's very important if you stay a few more minutes for important details and next steps. And I will give the floor to Elian, my colleague, which will lead the closing of the event. Please,
yes,
welcome.
thank you. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, I won't take more than 3 minutes of your time. We're sorry for the questions that we couldn't answer, but I already wrote in the chat that you can send us an email on the email that I gave you already, and you can ask us whatever you want, and we can see how we can answer. But let me answer one main question, which is how to join the network. Ahmed will share in the chat right now some links for our website and LinkedIn and Twitter. We don't have an open call right now, but whenever it's open, for the membership, you have to apply through an application process that will be shared on these platforms. So I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the main takeaways that we want to leave you with today. The first thing is that the SDGs, the 17 SDGs are not independent. They work all together, and education has a very meaningful impact on the accomplishment of these SDGs. And when we are talking about improving education, we're not only talking about curricula and systems, we are also talking about infrastructure, digital technology, everything that affects education. This transformation cannot be achieved without the involvement of young people, without the partnership between SDGs, and also without the cooperation between all the stakeholders. It's this way or no other way. It's either all the stakeholders put their effort together to accomplish this, or this cannot be achieved. So let's make sure to call on this. Now, I want to mention 2 things that you can keep an eye on. Which is the first one is the Global Youth Initiative, which is a multi-stakeholder initiative, and it's aiming to ensure meaningful engagement and leadership in education policymaking at the country level. It was developed by partners and youth and student networks under the overall coordination of the SDG4Youth Network. Partners include UNESCO, Global Students Forum, Teach for All, Save the Children, Global Education Monitoring Report, UNHCR, and UNICEF. And one of the components of the Global Youth Initiative is the Global Indicator of Youth Participation in Education Decision-Making, and it's under development to help monitor progress. You will have in the chat the link for the video of the Global Youth Initiative and the link of the launching of the Global Youth Initiative. The second one is that the SDG4Youth Network is developing a guidance note for the youth to engage in the implementation of the national commitments. Of course, you can also find that on the links we will be sharing with you whenever it's ready. It's not ready yet. Yeah, and we will share everything in the chat if we didn't yet. And thank you everyone for being here with us today. And I just want to leave you with these few words. Change come to those who work on it and who believe in it and who believe they deserve it. So let's work on this all together. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliane, and thank you everyone for joining this event and making it 3 minutes more. I appreciate everyone, the speakers, the audience for the amazing engagement on the chat as well. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna make many interesting things together. And I think the key words that I got from the last OA speech was trust and authenticity, which is doesn't really have a cost, but we can apply it every single day. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you, Nurul and Yasmin.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.